So what's the answer to this question of how many times democratically voted in authoritarian regimes are actually democratically voted out of power? Would it surprise you to know that it's exactly 0 times 0?
We don't need him. Freedom, freedom. He's a dictator. He's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense and I'm a smart person.
Some people call me a dictator. Hi, I'm Dr. Stephen Hassan, expert in cults, mind control. I'm also an expert in neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, and hypnosis. Donald Trump understands the key essence of NLP, which is that the meaning of the communication is the response it elicits. So it's not what you intend to say, it's how people react to it. And he is very practiced at the use of words that are confusing, phrases that contradict themselves, that make people go inside into a trance to make sense of what he's saying. So the confusion technique is one of the major techniques that Milton Erickson developed to help his patients. Erickson was a psychiatrist dedicated to healing, unlike malignant narcissists who want to control and dominate, and to emphasize that Donald Trump was raised believing people are predator or prey, and so he should always be alpha and always be predator. The other thing that I want to say is we now understand through neuroscience that when the brain hears something over and over and over again, even if it's an untruth or a big lie, back to Adolf Hitler and the big lie, the brain starts accepting it as if it was true. This is one of the fallacious factors in our learning organism, brain cells, that if it happens over and over and over again, it gets inside of people's heads. With that, I want to comment on Think John Oliver. In 2015, he did a show before Donald Trump got the GOP nomination to run for president the first time. He had a campaign, Make Donald Drumpf Again, D-R-U-M-P-F. And I bought a couple of hats. People have seen me wearing the hats. And think about, would anybody think of him as a leader if his name was Drumpf? And in fact, I encourage people to start, whenever they hear the word Trump, to hear it as Drumpf and his German-Austrian heritage, because indeed his family are immigrants. He has demonstrated behaviorally, and this is another thing about malignant narcissists who are cult leaders, that's the stereotypical profile, they want to control people. They want that adoration. They want people to lift them up, and they always are grandiose and needing of narcissistic supply. And he has demonstrated through his behavior that he really admires other dictators, whether it's North Korea's Kim or Putin or Xi. We saw an obvious demonstration that he was definitely not predator when he was meeting with Vladimir Putin. He was to quote Arnold Schwarzenegger, a wet noodle.
President Trump, I just saw your press conference with President Putin, and it was embarrassing. I mean, you stood there like a little wet noodle.
Think about Donald Trump, how many times he repeated the word dictator in this one little clip.
He's a dictator. He's a dictator. Maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator.
In this case, I think that we need to take him very seriously, that he wants to have martial law and a military dictatorship so he doesn't have to worry whether he needs to win an election ever again. What do you think? Put your comments below.
Donald Trump, let's get real here, is trying to become America's first dictator. Do you want that? I didn't think so. I don't want it either. I keep getting this great question asked. How do we stop him? And so here are 6 ways that I think we can stop him and win. 1, and this is the most important, don't panic. It's so important that I'm going to say it again. Don't panic. Are you panicking about Donald Trump right now? Lots of people are. Well, slap yourself across the face. I just did it. I'm not panicking anymore. Donald Trump right now is engaging, in shock and awe. He's engaging in a sprint. For him to become America's first dictator, it's going to take a marathon. We can win the marathon. 2, and this is the low-lying fruit, we don't have to be entirely active. Donald Trump will self-sabotage. He's not right in the head. He keeps making major mistakes, and his popularity is down. According to the latest Gallup poll, he's underwater in terms of favorability, and what got him over the hump in terms of the election was the economy, Only 42% of people believe he's handling the economy well. 53% believe the economy is on the wrong track. Trump's policies mean you go to the VA hospital, no nurses. There are going to be E. coli outbreaks because no food inspectors. The list goes on. People are going to be unhappy. It's hard to become a dictator when you're not popular. His numbers are going to continue to drop. 3, now we get to the active parts of defeating Trump. And I'm going to start out with one that undoubtedly people will not like the most because it requires self-sacrifice. You know, there are a lot of people who voted for Trump not because they're racist, not because they're sexist, because they just wanted more money in their wallet. They didn't care if he was a dictator or not, as long as he made them economically more comfortable. So our job is to make sure that the economy is sour. There are going to be economic boycott days. I think first one is February 28th. Don't spend. Matter of fact, don't spend over the next 4 years. Don't buy that car. Don't buy that TV. Tell people who are overseas, don't come.
America has long called itself the land of the free, a shining democracy for the world to admire. But today, many wonder if that democracy is slipping away. Across the nation, signs of autocracy are rising. Why is it happening, and what does it mean for the future of America? Let's break it down. Watch and pay attention, and I'll share my thought later.
4, slow Trump down by making sure that Democrats win control of the House in 2026. And actually, there'll be an early election in New York, Stefanik's district, that Democrats can also win. People are saying there won't be fair elections in 2026. That's just panicking. We can't presume that. And if there are fair elections, we can win the House. That will slow Trump down. 5, support organizations that are taking Donald Trump to court to slow him down, to make sure that he doesn't become America's first dictator. Mark my words, he will lose at least some Supreme Court rulings, maybe even most. And we can't presume that he will ignore those losses. If he adheres to them, he can be stopped. And finally, 6, protests. Protests are just beginning. My wife and my daughter were already at a protest in D.C. As Donald Trump's popularity goes down, those protests will, mark my words, organically grow. And when they get large, you need to be there. Don't be shy. Show your displeasure. Remember, don't panic. Donald Trump is winning the sprint, but it's a marathon. We can win the marathon. Donald Trump will make mistakes. We play our cards right. Come 2028, if there's a fair election, I think there will be, we can make America American again.
We are fighting the rise of autocracy in this nation.
They say, we don't need him. Freedom, freedom. He's a dictator. He's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator.
And I don't think people fully understand what that means. When the current president of the United States says that people are referring to him as a dictator, and then he backdoors and says, well, maybe some people want a dictator. Normalizing this idea of dictatorship, normalizing this idea of dismantling our republic, people think we're just fear-mongering, or people think that what the president just said is a joke in some way or in some capacity. He doesn't mean it. But when you look at the actions being taken right now, the actions of this administration to turn our military against us, our own citizens, to turn our military against the American people. That is what happens in authoritarian regimes. That is what happens in dictatorships. And I don't understand why we keep having these pointless debates about whether or not what's happening right now is bad. It is objectively bad. There is no debate need be had about whether or not what we see happening right now is bad. It is. Full stop. And we can't keep trying to dismiss the facts of the case because of our opinions or because of what we are afraid might be true. We find ourselves retreating from truth or retreating from facts and burying ourselves deeper and deeper into opinions when the facts and history point to a rising dictatorship in America. It becomes quite annoying when people act as if two things can't be true at the same time. I hear people want to debate all of the good this administration has done. For example, Someone said, well, do you not agree with taking high fructose corn syrup out of soda and replacing it with real pure cane sugar? You can have your cane sugar in your soda. That does not take away from the fact that we are still battling an autocracy rising in this country. I don't see how people are unable to recognize that. We are still fighting against people who want to cut Medicaid, cut healthcare to people, defund life-saving research. We are still fighting against people who want to erase history. We are still fighting against initiatives aimed at attacking education, at scapegoating minority populations. So great, no more high fructose corn syrup in your soda, but also no more ability for you to vote in your representatives because they're gerrymandering illegally here in Texas. And I keep seeing this narrative of owning the libs. We're going to own the libs. You won't even be able to own your rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness if we keep tracking down the track we're going. Really, seriously. So understand, put things into perspective. Y'all looking at it as if it's a game. It's not a game, it's not a joke. We've had world-renowned historians and researchers who specialize in authoritarian regime, in dictatorships rising to power. They specialize in that type of research and understanding how it happens and how people are impacted by it. We had world-renowned historians and researchers leave America because they said the path being taken by this administration is one of detriment to America and its people. Stop joking. Stop playing. This is serious. This is really serious. And unfortunately, too many people are so focused on left versus right, they can't see up and down. You're too focused on trying to idolize your president that you can't see that you are being robbed, objectively robbed of your rights and your liberties. You can't see it. And it's disheartening, it is, that people cannot see it, but I get on here and I try to inform people and motivate people and educate people. And then you have people saying we're fear-mongering. No, we are trying to prevent catastrophe.
Donald Trump intends to use the United States military against American citizens who simply disagree with him. People he calls, quote, the enemy from within. America, this is not a candidate for president who is thinking about how to make your life better. This is someone who is unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and out for unchecked power.
Remember when this article came out on Politico? Politico rarely puts who writes the articles in the thumbnail, but I did a little bit of digging and I found out who wrote this article. First, let me start out by saying this. Everything that she said was going to happen is now happening. She's right. She didn't lie about anything that she said. Everything that she said Trump was going to do, he is now doing. I want people to understand that the author of this article wasn't surprising to me. The author of that article was Derek Hunter. Now, who is Derek Hunter, you might ask? An evil villain from the Legion of Doom? The Joker's tech guy? The Penguin in civilian clothes? Derek Hunter is a consultant for the Heritage Foundation. Yeah, that Heritage Foundation that wrote Project 2025. That knew all of this was going to happen because it's in Project 2025. He knows that the military portion of Project 2025 that begins on page 91 of the document specifically talks about a couple of things, like reinstating people that were discharged because they refused to get the vaccine, like the abolishment of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the military, and also, and this is important, because he said that Kamala Harris was lying, and he specifically worked for the Heritage Foundation that wrote Project 2025 as a consultant, the use of military members for domestic enforcement. The use of military members for domestic enforcement is in Project 2025. So it's funny to me that this guy that worked for the Heritage Foundation, that wrote this article right here, had the nerve and the audacity to call Kamala Harris a liar for pointing out what the Heritage Foundation written document that he, again, worked for, that specifically talks about using the military for domestic enforcement. And he also knows that the entire document is basically calling for the consolidation of power in the executive. Yeah, Trump said this yesterday, that a lot of people are saying maybe we'd like a dictator. He said this yesterday. Yeah. So when we were saying it could be worse, this is what the fuck we were talking about. When we were saying it could be worse, this is what the fuck we were talking about. And the reason why people are upset at online leftists is not because they're afraid of your stupid fucking burn book. They're upset because you guys aren't focused on the actual threats that all of us are facing. That's what people are pissed off about. That's why people are getting in your asses. And this is the exact reason why I tell people to stop engaging with them, because they absolutely have nothing to offer except for a burn book. That's what they have to offer. That's the entirety of what they have to offer to this fight against fascism. A fucking burn book talking about the woman that lost the last election and not the man that's in the White House that's causing the harm right now. Fuck them. Fuck Jill Stein. We don't win elections with them because they don't vote for us. And we waste a lot of time going back and forth with them, arguing with them about voting for Democrats when they never vote for Democrats. Fuck them and fuck Jill Stein.
Okay, so I want to apologize for something I said in an earlier video, and then I want to say what I should have said the first time. When Trump first sent troops into DC, I made a video saying that it was all a distraction from his failed policies. And I sort of laughed off the idea that it was actually about crime, because we know that crime in DC is way down. But I've realized that I missed something really critical in that video, so I want to try again. What I didn't do that I should have done is to state right up front that we all want to feel safe, and that a lot of us don't, right? And those things are true, and it should have been acknowledged. Unfortunately, Trump is exploiting the fact that we all want to feel safe and some of us don't for political gain, for power. The Republicans are too, and we know that they have for a long time. In fact, I just found out recently that in 2024 alone, the Republican Party spent more than $1 billion on crime-related ads meant to scare you. I probably don't need to tell you this, but none of that actually makes us safer. So what does make us safer? Violence intervention programs, funding safer communities, increasing treatment for mental health issues and drug addiction, getting illegal guns off the street. We know this because every single city that's implemented policies like these have seen dramatic decreases in crime. Just ask Baltimore. When it comes to solutions like this, Trump's record is terrible. He's cut healthcare, food assistance. He's gutted funding for community violence intervention by $820 million. He's cut drug and mental health treatment funding. He's rolled back gun safety laws. He even cut funding from DC's federal law enforcement budget last year, like a lot of it. So what I should have said in my video about the DC occupation is just more complex than what I said. Yes, it's a distraction. Yes, it's authoritarian overreach. Yes, Trump does not care about crime, but also everyone wants to feel safe. And Americans want and deserve real solutions to prevent crime. And those solutions are out there. We deserve them. But what Trump is doing isn't that. It's like tough on crime theater that in the end is draining resources from exactly the places where we need more funding to actually make our communities safer. And that is how I should have put it.
I'm done calling myself a leftist. In recent days, especially after the AOC situation, I've been in other people's comment sections arguing with them what it means to be an actual leftist. But these conversations reminded me that these people aren't actually focused on progressive change or combating authoritarianism. Like all of these comments right here, they're all insane to me. Hyperfixation on separating yourselves from liberals as much as possible is so crazy to me, especially in a time where Donald Trump and the Republican Party are actively bringing back fascism into our country. But we're so focused on virtue signaling and trying to be counterculture that we're attacking the side that we're supposed to align closely to. But I understand now, we're not actually aligned on anything. What I'm focused on right now is combating authoritarianism, especially with MAGA and the Republican Party. But I also support progressive policies. Policies like Medicare for all, subsidizing childcare, climate protection, more affordable housing programs. All these policies that I've heard leftists claim that they support all these years. But me actually wanting to implement these policies in their mind means I have to be a liberal. This is another issue where nobody actually knows what it means to be a leftist. Self-proclaimed socialists that are the only socialists with power in the United States, like AOC and Bernie Sanders, aren't even considered leftists by a significant amount of the people on this app. If you don't support the people actively pushing for your progressive policies, what are you actually doing? The reason they think this is because they think anybody who works within the system, the capitalist system, to get progressive policies supports the capitalist system. That means progressive policies stand in the way of their goal of getting rid of the capitalist system. So why these people wait for a hypothetical revolution? They're watching people get stripped of their healthcare, people who can't afford housing, people from minority groups in red states who are under attack constantly. And they don't actually want to help these people because it stands in their way of getting rid of the capitalist system. I refer to myself as a socialist/leftist because I agree with almost every single thing that AOC stands for, right? The self-proclaimed socialist with the most political power in the entire United States right now. And there are self-identified leftists on this app who I really enjoy. Creators like Marie, Liz, and Reactionary Leftist. People who all make content revolving around the importance of voting and getting progressive policies. But I think a lot of the online leftists would laugh and scoff at them for even considering themselves as part of the left, which is just insane to me. If supporting and voting for the Democratic Party, wanting them to win elections so they can take down the authoritarian MAGA party, and at the same time getting policies that help everyday people who need our help, if that makes me a liberal, then I'm a liberal. Who brought us the Affordable Care Act? Who brought us the biggest climate protection bill in US history? Who got us the right to gay marriage? Who got us the women's suffrage movement? Who brought us the civil rights movement? All of those were done by liberals. If you're still using liberal as an insult in the big 2025, then you've lost the plot. And you're more focused on internet clout than helping people live their best lives. And that means we do disagree. Because I'm standing with liberals over the do-nothing online leftists 10 times out of 10. I'm done calling myself a leftist. In recent days, especially after the AOC situation, I've been in other...
Okay, first off, pay no attention to the state on me. This is no shade, no tea to you. I don't really know where I categorize myself at as of right now. I'm pretty much homeless at the moment because I don't know where I belong. I'm still trying to figure out where exactly I line up on the political scale. However, there is something I have realized a lot in this political fighting, specifically online political fighting. Because I feel like the conversations I have online are very different from the conversations I have offline. And I push some pretty hard questions on people. I need y'all to take a step back from some of these accounts that are saying some of the things in the comments that you were posting and realize that some of these accounts are not real. They're not. We know for sure our social media is being messed with. We know that 100%. That has been proven. We are well aware of that. I have taken the time now that if somebody says a comment that's just insane or doesn't make sense to me, half the time I don't reply. I do not entertain it because I have come to realize so many of these accounts are not real. They're bots or it's a troll. And there's a chance that troll is 12 years old. They have no clue what they're talking about. So I just want y'all to think about that. And the reason why I say that also is what concerns me is it is like you said, a lot of people don't know what being a liberal means, being a leftist means and all this. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I did a video a few days ago saying that I'm just recently discovering what certain words actually mean over the last 5 to 7 years. I have finally taken the time to learn, like, what does communism mean? What does capitalism mean? What does liberal mean? What does conservative mean? Like the actual definition versus the feeling of how it was explained to me. Because I've heard these words so much over the years and they're always with a feeling, never the actual definition. And so that's definitely happening a lot right now with the word leftist and the word liberal. It is happening so much, and I stopped reading people's feelings and I started reading definitions. That way I can have a better understanding and then just researching this stuff actually in practice, because of course definition is one thing and practice is another. And I've learned a lot. I really have. So I don't want to say don't categorize yourself as a leftist just because of other people's feelings. Don't do that. You are who you are. But I also do want everybody to take a step back for a second and realize that a lot of these accounts are not real. They're not. We still need to be having certain conversations between, because we're all going to feel differently about it. I don't believe in tearing down the current system, because I think that certain people will suffer more. So I don't believe in that. Some people do. Some people feel like that we need to start from scratch, and we need to have a conversation about that. So there is just various ways that we can go to have this conversation. Online, I feel like are times that I'm not sure if it's necessarily the best place in a comment section, because the amount of times I've also done tests to see, okay, I'm curious if I say this word and it'll trigger someone. Okay, you said that, which shows that you're on this side of the scale, but what if I say this? Oh, all of a sudden your comment tips to the other side of the scale. You're a bot. You're a bot. That's not only on TikTok, that's on Facebook, that's on Twitter, that's on Instagram. I've seen it so much. Or they'll just be talking out their freaking booty hole and not making any sense. Clearly a troll. I'm not saying that these type of people don't exist. Do not get me wrong. But I just want us to be careful in not wanting to be associated with somebody or something, certain words, just because of what we're seeing online.
Leftists aren't doing purity politics. They just want a dictator. They want a dictator. We don't live in a political system that allows our elected officials to be 100% staunch and consistent in everything that they stand for. If you are an elected official in the United States, at some point in time, you're going to have to negotiate something, give up something, vote for or sign something that you do not agree with to get something that you do agree with passed. They may say, oh, it's possible, that's possible, that's possible, but time has shown that it is not possible. You can't name one elected official in American history that has been able to do that. They want a dictator. A dictator doesn't have to go through all these problems. They want a dictator. Leftists aren't doing purity politics. They just want a dictator.
So it's so funny because I was literally having this conversation with my business partner around the time that we found out this man was coming into office. I was telling him, I was like, I truly believe that in history and currently, we often slide into dictatorship and also authoritarianism because ultimately people do not actually want to do the work of progressing. They would rather have somebody come and save them. And there's particularly one specific demographic that, and we can talk about their voting history, that it falls in this category where it's like, I don't want to actually have to get out and do physical labor or physical organization or any type of work to obtain the things that I want. I'd rather just look for somebody else who's going to promise it. And if they don't promise it, I can just blame them. I don't have to take any responsibility for it. Like if it doesn't work out, I can just blame them and I can just complain about them and I can just find somebody else. And this is what I think about. Like, this is what I think is going on. And so when we ended up here, I was like, I'm not surprised we ended up here because you have a lot of people that don't really want to do actual work. And it is very clear by the conversations that are happening right now. Like, people are really on the ground still trying to do work, still trying to figure out how to play chess against these fucking cheaters that are in office right now. And motherfuckers is still complaining. Why? Because they don't want to do the actual work. They want the perfect superhero to come in. They want the fucking Avengers to slide in and do something. And that way, if they do something wrong, they can just blame them while they did nothing. And once you understand that, and once you get that some people just don't want to do the work, you kind of like just realize to kind of keep them out of the organization. Like you have to, right? Like, and I know, like, I love when Imani talks about like we're leaving people out and it's dangerous, and I understand what she's saying when she's talking about that, like not leaving out and having to build community and having to talk to people. But in my opinion, in my experience, I feel like there are groups that people who just don't want to do the work. There are people who want somebody else to do it, whether that be they want the black people to do it, which we've seen that before, whether they want, like even some of the organizations to do it, or whether they want individuals, and whether even they want a racist to do it, right? And that way, if it doesn't work out, they have someone to blame. Because if they actually have to step foot and put in the work, and the work is not, working out, it's not progressing as fast as they want to, or it's not going the right way, they will have to take accountability, and they don't want to. They don't want to. And so it's easier to just say, well, I want somebody else to do it. This person didn't do it right. Okay, well, who do you want? I don't know. I just want someone. And then it gets to the point where we're down to the wire and they're just like, all right, well, who will I pick? Well, I'm just going to pick this person. And then when this person doesn't do right, I could just blame them. And that's how we end here. So I do believe not even that just leftists want a dictatorship. I believe like what that man said, he said it today. And I think I do think he said to test everybody, but I think he's also stating facts that some people do want a dictatorship. They won't say it like that. Doesn't sound good to say, but some people just want one person to fix up everything. And if your expectation is to have one person come and just fix up everything, you do want a dictator. You do. Now, if you want to organize to get the best representative of you in office and to hold them accountable, absolutely different thing, right? Because you're supposed to be doing your job as my elected official while I am down here on the ground doing the job locally, right? Absolutely agree. But when you have somebody who does not want to participate, does not want to get on the ground, does not want to roll up their sleeves, does not want to get engaged, just wants to sit and fucking complain and find a savior that does not exist to kind of come in and clean up everything, you do want a dictator. You want a dictator.
Autocracy is a system of government where power is concentrated in the hands of one person or a small group while the voices of ordinary people are silenced. When people think of autocracy, they imagine dictatorships abroad. But here's the truth, autocracy does not arrive overnight. It creeps in slowly, often dressed in the language of law and order or protecting freedom. Look closely and you will see the signs already here. Attacks on voting rights, voter suppression laws, making it harder for minority, the poor, and young people to vote. Erosion of check and balance, attempts to weaken courts, undermine the press, and concentrate power in the executive branch. Rise of authoritarian leaders. Politicians who glorify strongman tactics, demand loyalty, and dismiss critics as enemies. Criminalizations of protests, peaceful demonstrators labeled as threats, while police militarizations escalate. Each of these is a brick in the wall of autocracy. There are several reasons why autocracy is gaining ground in America. 1. Fear of demographic change. As America becomes more diverse, some see equality as a loss of power. Autocracy leaders exploit this fear. 2. Economic inequality. When wealth is concentrated at the top, people lose faith in democracy and look for strong leaders who promise quick fix. 3. Polarization and misinformation. Disinformation campaigns and echo chambers make it easy to divide people and hard to find common ground. 4. Disillusionment with government. Many feel democracy is not delivering, so they turn to leaders who promise strength even at the cost of freedom. History shows us that democracies do not collapse with a bang, they rot from within. We see it in Weimar Germany before Hitler. We saw it in Latin America during military coups. We see it today in countries like Hungary, Turkey, where democracy turned into autocracy through slow erosion. America is not immune. In fact, Baldwin once said, not everything is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. If America does not face this danger, it may follow the same path. We cannot ignore race in this conversation. Much of the push toward autocracy in America is rooted in maintaining white supremacy. Efforts to suppress black voters, control immigration, censor history, and punish protest movements like Black Lives Matter are all part of the same strategy. Control. Autocracy thrives when inequality is normalized and when certain groups are silenced. Here is the big question. Is democracy in America strong enough to survive? It depends. Democracy only works if people defend it. That means voting even when they make it harder. Speaking truth even when it is unpopular. Protecting free press, free speech, and the right to protest. Holding leaders accountable no matter their party. Autocracy rises when people stay silent, but democracy survives when people fight back. Thank you for watching, guys. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comment box below. Until next time, cheers and have a good one.